welcome back to the channel. It's Trey, and let's talk about Dragon Ball Daima because the Dragon Ball former editor talked about it in a live stream, as you guys know. And I know some of y'all probably don't like this editor, but without this editor, Dragon Ball wouldn't be Dragon Ball now, would it? Cause I know how some people get mad about, oh, I really don't like him because he did this and that, but it's just like he's a businessman at the end of the day. So Kazuki Tomoshima. I hope I said his name right. If I did not say his name right, you guys know I'm not trying to bastard nobody's name. But anyway, he talked about Dragon Ball, and he was just like, with Akira Toriyama's last work, Daima, was trash. He said the anime is trash, it's lazy, it wasn't up to par, and he felt like they should have just did a Vegeta anime instead. If you were going to focus on something, it would have made sense to focus on Vegeta. And he also talked about he also talked about the artists. He said the basics aren't up to par compared to the Dragon Ball Z manga and the Dragon Ball manga. He was like, um, Torioki, like his work's not up to par, and you know, he is a fan manga artist who Akira Toriyama, discovered, but the editor was just like, the work isn't up to par. And honestly, he's right, because I've seen a lot of people criticize Tori for his, using the same damn style, like panels or whatever. So like he'll take things that Akira Toriyama drew and he'll just reuse them and repanel them. But it's just like, okay, you need to push the media. Like, now that you're there, you need to push it. Kind of like, you know, when we get artists on comic books or whatever. Yes, everybody kind of likes to be inspired by Jim Lee, but a lot of artists have found their own ways of using Jim Lee's style and turning it into their own and pushing the media, if that makes sense. And I think that's what the editor is trying to say. Is basically, he's like, hey, it's not up to par, not compared to the original one. And you can be inspired by it, but yes, if you want to mimic your drawings or whatever, that's great and all, but you still need to push it, if that makes sense. You know, if anything, there was a Instagram artist that used to be very active. He's no longer active anymore. I think the Dragon Ball fandom kind of pushed him out of just doing the art or anything. His name was X Crimson X. He did a Dragon Ball manga, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, Zabier Chronicles or whatever, and it was basically about the story of Zabier and Fawn. They were the descendants of Goku, so it was like years after GT, and he took place in the GT timeline, with a little bit of the Xenoverse storylines as well. It's kind of sad that we never got a chance to see anything more, and I think he deactivated his Instagram and all that kind of stuff or whatever. I think he just lost faith in the Dragon Ball community or whatever and stuff like that. But now, if you want to talk about an artist like that, him, and then there is, I mean, well, actually, it's really him mostly that I've really seen, like, actually done a lot of fan manga that I feel like really captures the spirit or whatever. But seeing how all of this goes and just seeing like how, like, hey, look, this shit just not working. And I get what he's saying. As an editor, you kind of have to like understand like what works and what doesn't work. And I know a lot of people are always like so critical or judgmental about Dragon Ball, and that you can't really criticize Dragon Ball Super or Daima because everybody always make excuses for it. But it's just like trash is trash. And if you got the former editor who a lot of people say like, oh, he kind of saved Dragon Ball from cancellation. I think they were saying or whatever. But I mean, hey, you can't get mad when when you got these people who formerly worked for Akira Toriyama literally telling y'all like, hey, this shit is trash. Daima super trash, and then the fandom is trying to attack them as if they're wrong. But mostly it's the Western. I think it's the Western fandom that's really doing that because everybody else already know. But the only reason why Dragon Ball had that hold on it is because the Western audience has grown so much that they're so hypnotized with bullshit that they'll accept bullshit. And it's true. The Western audience will accept so much bullshit from Dragon Ball. It doesn't even make any sense. Like recently, they just released the character pack, the third character pack for the season pass of Spark and Zero, and it's just like, oh look, it's those characters from Dragon Ball Daima, the fake ass Super Saiyan 4 that's not canon. I don't give a damn what none of y'all say. That, like, to me, you can't sit up here and say GT isn't canon, but then say Daima's canon just because they claim Akira Toriyama worked on it. Claim. Because honestly, just because you script some bullshit, that don't mean a damn thing. Let y'all tell it. Mangas need to happen in order for it to be canon. Since Daima doesn't have a manga, and really Super doesn't have a manga because Super wasn't drawn by Akira Toriyama, right? And Dragon Ball GT doesn't have one officially done by him. Therefore, it is not canon. That's how I'm just going based on what the Western audience been telling me, that when anime happens without manga, and if the original mangaka artist isn't drawing it, then therefore it is not canon. So therefore, by going by your own logic, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, and Daima are not canon. And definitely Dragon Ball Super, because the anime came out way before the manga. Way before the manga. Super was already in the Goku Black arc by the time we got some of the manga starting to go. You know what I'm saying? And then it'd be like, oh, well, they had those two original arcs in the manga. Okay, and they ain't really do much. You see, ain't nobody doing nothing with them, right? I'm just being honest. Like, I'm just being honest. You see, ain't nobody doing nothing with them, right? I ain't really seen them appear in no video games. I ain't seen them be colored, animated for people. I'm talking about like by any kind of official means. No. Have you seen it? No, because I haven't. So if you can't even do anything with the manga stuff, does it really matter, right? The manga that really is now on hiatus. Then you got the Super arc with Goten and Trunks that really doesn't do much of shit with them again. Like, you gotta take this shit serious, and that's what the former editor was saying. Like, I had to get Akira Toriyama to take this shit serious. More martial arts, less cutesy bullshit, more serious action and stuff like that. And I think that's the thing that is missing from Dragon Ball Super and Daima, is that it wasn't taken serious. It was literally made as fanfic joke slop. And now, of course, the usual suspects, the Dragon Ball fandom, when you say anything bad about it, guess what? They're gonna go in your comment sections. They're gonna tell you you're a terrible person. You're horrible. And if you're an artist who even does a little bit of art, you can't draw anyway. You don't know what you're talking about. Toritaru can draw way better than you and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and that doesn't take away the criticism of like, hey, Dragon Ball Super and Daima are hot trashes. Like, be so for real. Like, I don't know. I'm just being honest, and the editor is being honest. But guess what? You already know there's going to be about 500 videos on YouTube, on TikTok, or whatever, talking about the editor is terrible and he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's why he's the former editor, as if his contributions to Dragon Ball just ain't is nothing to sneeze at. Matter of fact, let's talk about some of his contributions since I like a lot of people forget. So he did originate the concept where he suggested the idea of a martial arts series to Akira Toriyama. Toriyama influenced key plots such as the transformation of the initial Cell into Perfect Cell. His editorship was instrumental into guiding Toriyama into creating a more compelling story. Shaping the anime, he was also instrumental in the production of the anime's second season, Dragon Ball Z, by changing the studio producers to create more serious and less cute images of the series. Collaborative relationships, collaborations between Toriyama and Toshima was a partnership where the editor provided guidance, challenging, and Toriyama in turn adapted and redefined story beyond Dragon Ball. He has also discovered Toriyama as a talented artist and taking him under his wing to develop his work. He also shaped Shonen Jump's future. He was becoming a key figure in Weekly Shonen Jump, where he launched other popular series like One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. So, I'm just saying, like, and he saved Dragon Ball from cancellation. So I don't know. I know how some of y'all are like upset that he said it, but he's an editor, and that's the problem with the Western market is that they don't want editors to come in and like literally put the artists and writers in their place about shit. Like DC and Marvel have allowed these artists and writers to do whatever the fuck they want with the characters because the editors were too quote unquote mean or hard nosed on them. While in Japan, it's just like, no, you're not going to sit up here and just half ass deliver shit. And what happened is because Akira Toriyama had built up so much great legacy with Dragon Ball, they allowed him to do whatever the fuck they wanted with Super and Daima. But the problem is, Super and Daima is horseshit. It's not taken seriously, and I think that's the thing that the editor was trying to get people to understand. Like, you can't just do whatever you want with these characters, and you need to start focusing and pivoting. And then that's why I'm saying, like, what should have happened is once you got GT, and if you really wanted to do more Dragon Ball, you take the timeline of GT, right? You can do a manga. You can add things in there that wasn't part of the original anime series. You can do you can do a retelling of GT. Just add the things that you wanted into GT, and then, like the editor said, since they wanted to do Vegeta, you could have did more Vegeta grounded stories on Earth, while Goku, Pan, Trunks, Goten was out in space. Yes, because Goten would have been there. Dragon Ball GT, yes, Goten, Trunks, Goku, and Pan would have been there. You know what I'm saying? And then you have Vegeta with Bola and Gohan dealing with some bullshit on Earth. That's how I look at it. I would have definitely had enemies. Like, remember when Garlic Jr. came in that anime only thing where it was up to Gohan, Piccolo, and them to take on whatever while that was going on. So, you know, um, while that was going on, you can have that doing that, and you can have Goku and them doing the Dragon Ball stuff. That's what should have happened. That's what I would have added on to it. So you can still have Baby come to Earth or whatever stuff like that, but you can have other things that are happening. So you have two stories going on: a Vegeta plot and a Goku plot right there. You get what I'm saying? And you can do more stuff around or whatever and stuff like that. That's what I would have done. Even if you didn't need Goku, even if Vegeta and them, you could have easily did that Demon World bullshit, and you could have put that in GT and have Vegeta, Bola, Gohan, Videl, Piccolo go to the Demon World and deal with whatever the fuck need to happen. You get what I'm saying? Because it's just like Vegeta's like, we ain't got time. We gotta defend the Earth, keep the Earth going until Goku and friends get the Black Star Dragon Balls. That's what you need to do. But you didn't want to do that. You wanted to make this shit a joke. And people are tired of jokes. You know what I'm saying? Like, We are done with the jokes. You know what I really hate? I really hate when I'm doing something and somebody's looking at me and it's like, clearly if I'm on the phone talking or doing a recording or whatever, don't interrupt me. Don't come over here asking me for shit. Like, motherfucker, you see I'm on my damn phone? God damn it. I swear to God, people. Anyway, what I'm saying is that you got to start thinking about these stories long term. You can't just do whatever. Like, people think that you can just jump from doing, just throwing shit at the wall and calling it. You know what I mean? My thing is that I had always said that if you really want to do something, you have Dragon Ball here, superheroes. I mean, Dragon Ball what? Dragon Ball Heroes, which is that little promotional anime that we saw. That was really fun. That didn't tie to continuity. You could have did so much stuff with that one. Then you could have did something with Xenoverse if you really needed to. But if you wanted Dragon Ball to keep going, you needed to take this shit serious. But when you start when y'all start making a big deal about canon and start saying like, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, and then when you got Dragon Ball Super and Daima breaking that continuity and those rules and make changes to Boma and Trunks, like, that's dumb. I don't want to hear, well, in the original, it doesn't matter about what the original manga coloring or whatever and stuff like that. The fact of the matter is, we already have a established look. Going back and rectifying or retconning something is crazy as hell. Or the fact that Trunks and Goten was not older throughout Super, and it took them all the way, and then they try to retcon that and be like, well, and then Trunks' hair is blue, but at the end of Dragon Ball Z manga, he's muscular with purple hair, so his hair is just gonna change back. But remember, this is still supposed to still be the canon, which doesn't make sense. You get what I'm saying? That's why you can see why a lot of the editors and people who did work on Dragon Ball were saying like, hey, Super, yeah, no. And, you know, Daima does suck. Because think about it. If Daima, I have to ask people, if Daima was well received like people claim it was, they would continue to do something. If Super if Super was so good, they would continue something. You don't just not do nothing. You get what I'm saying? But I think, because there is an article saying that Dragon Ball manga is part of the foundation of Japan society and whatever. Well, if you ask me, how do you get a baby to stop sucking on a goddamn on a bottle, right? You have to slowly wean the baby off, right? Well, guess what? If that's the case, then Japan, you're gonna have to start winking yourself off of Dragon Ball. You really are. You cannot keep constantly relying on Dragon Ball, because there was shit before Dragon Ball and there's shit after Dragon Ball. No offense. And this is coming from somebody who loved Dragon Ball, and I love Akira Toriyama. And again, don't come up in here and talk about, well, you must don't like Akira Toriyama, you must hate him because it was his final work. Okay, but the editor who worked with him, his former editor, said the shit was trash too, and he worked with him. So does that mean he hated Akira Toriyama? No. Stop assuming just because we're criticizing something that we hate the people. No. You know what I'm saying? It'd be different if Akira Toriyama was all over the place throughout his career. Then I could be like, nah, look. Akira Toriyama been cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for years. You know what I'm saying? But he's not. Akira Toriyama's a great artist. Love the man. Respect the man for everything he's done. But at the same time, you can also say, look, this shit is trash. Just like George Lucas, respect the man, but let's be honest, the prequels needed a little bit of Jesus juice, okay? But that's what happens when you don't have people in charge to ring your ass in, because George Lucas almost fucked up his original trilogy. Thank goodness his first wife was like, whoa, George, let's ring this shit back in. Sometimes, as a creative, you need somebody to ring your ass in when it comes to your ideas. And that's what the former editor was basically saying. Because could you imagine if the former editor was working and he decided like, hey, instead of a Dragon Ball Diamond that makes no sense, which is like a bootleg version of Dragon Ball GT, and still to this time Dragon Ball GT is still better than anything of recent. that's been put out. And I know a lot of people gonna be like, oh no, because I'm a story person first and foremost. I'm not a person who just gets hyped on colors and effects or fights. You better come with a fucking story. Sorry, I grew up in the 90s where most of this had stories. Most of the old school animes and shows had stories because they knew that you couldn't just throw some slop at the screen. Because trust me, there was a lot of animes back in the day that thought that that could work, and guess what? They were canceled. They were canceled immediately. Oh no, we did not do that around these parts. And that's the same thing that came from comic books. That's the same thing for books in general. You cannot just throw slop at the wall. And that's what I feel like when they also talked about there's a video going on where they're talking about anime tourists, and they got a point. A lot of anime tourists, especially some of the ones who are so nostalgic for Dragon Ball GT, it's like they dangle shiny, ooh, shiny, but you're not thinking about a serious story. You're not thinking about a serious story. If you're not thinking about a serious story, you cannot focus. Y'all need somebody to throw some shiny shit in front of you, and then the story is just lackluster, or the story is contradicting itself, and then people are telling you, like me, I'm literally telling you, like, hey, the story sucks. The story sucks. And some of y'all are so ignorant to it, or so whatever, that you just allow it. Like, no offense, Chainsaw Man, Dan to Dan, I don't care what none of y'all say. I watched them. Stories suck. Stories suck. When I tell you it's one of those animes and mangas that I feel like you could have did an OVA or a movie and wrap this shit up. Now, am I saying that y'all are stupid for watching it? No, no. But to me, these new animes and mangas, these stories ain't hidden. These stories ain't hidden like I want them to. Like, it ain't there no more. And that's the same for Dragon Ball. And I hate when people are like, well, just have fun with Dragon Ball. Why can't you just appreciate the fact that we have Dragon Ball? I don't care about Dragon Ball like that, just to be throwing shit out there. You cannot get mad that I don't want to just enjoy Dragon Ball just because. You have to give me a reason. Because again, for me, Dragon Ball ended with GT. Because you wrapped it up. It's the same thing with Sailor Moon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. When you give me a ending to a story, sometimes a story is just the ending, and that's it. I don't ask for nothing else. Like, think about it. Inuyasha ended, and they tried to do a sequel series. Yashahime Demon Princesses, where we focus on Inuyasha and Shomru's daughters. 2 seasons, and then after that we ain't heard nothing else from it. You know why? Because we don't fucking care. We don't fucking care. Once the story ended, that's it. Once you gave a definite ending to the story, that's it. Especially nowadays, your glimpse of these sequel series ain't even all that good. Like Boruto sucks. Boruto sucks, and I know people are going to try to tell you, read the manga. No, it just fundamentally sucks. First off, the artwork ain't what it is. The plot story ain't really what it is, because you holding us on this thing where Boruto and Kawaki are fighting upon a destroyed Konoha, and then we jump all these years. No, that's not the hook line you do. That's not the hook line you do. At that point, no, you continue from that part and let's go. And then over time, we get flashbacks of shit. Because right now, it sucks. The manga suck. The anime suck. Like, y'all got to understand. People want story now. And a lot of the thing about it is these new animes and mangas, even when you're bringing back old school stuff, you are just dangling sparkly shit in front of them and not giving them a story, because nobody has the attention span anymore to understand. And that is the truth when it comes to shit like this. When it comes to the Dragon Ball Daima, Dragon Ball Super, because people can try to argue me down all the time, and I keep trying to tell them, okay, but think about it. Super is an integral. An integral is a story that takes place in between two period points in a story. It comes before the ending, and it's in between the story. So guess what? The problem is that goes against that whole integral thing is Dragon Ball Z's manga itself, that a lot of y'all like to be like canon. Okay, if Dragon Ball Z ended after the Majin Buu, we had the 10-year peace arc, right? Which we didn't really see much of nothing, and then we know that 10 years the Earth was peaceful. Goku and his family and friends were living their lives, doing whatever. Then we get to the tournament arc. That's the last arc that wrapped up Dragon Ball Z, right? And then you see Goku fly off with Oob to start a new adventure, right? Okay, cool. Now, why would I fucking care about 10 years of peace? So, if Daima and Super is supposed to take place in between 10-year gap, why the fuck would I care? Because I already know what happens to Goku and his friends from 20 years ago. This That's what makes it hard to do prequels and integrals, because I don't care. I'm not invested in it because I already know what's going to happen. Now, if we were doing prequels to like how Goku and them got there, sure. But the problem is we already saw that everything's, so when you try to be like everything's about to be destroyed, the universe is about to collapse. No, the fuck it's not. We already know. I can't get invested in that. You get what I'm saying? I can't get invested in universes being destroyed from Dragon Ball when no, it's not. We already know Goku and his friends are going to be fine. Like if this took place right after Goku and Oob flew off and y'all was doing a redux of Dragon Ball GT, sure, you could have did all of this and I would have been shocked and surprised, but you didn't. You decided to be stupid and do something dumb because you just couldn't let go of Dragon Ball Z's regular designs. That's why I respected GT, because GT moved on with the characters, let them grow up. Yes, yes, would I have loved to see more of them? Of course, I would have loved to see more of them, but it didn't happen. But again, at least you can see the progression of time with these characters. You can see their maturity. Going back and dealing with Goku and Vegeta still not learning shit is tiring. Going back and seeing Goten and Trunks act like little spoiled brats, tiring. Getting Gohan still having to learn the same lesson about, oh, I don't know how to take it. When Dragon Ball GT showed up, Gohan showed up, and he knew something was off with his brother. He shut the fuck up and he started fighting. He got down to business. He wasn't trying to be like, oh, I don't know if I can do it or whatever. No, he can do it. He can do it. Would I have loved for the Dragon Ball GT cast to fight a little bit more? Of course I would have. Of course I would have. But again, at least it felt like threats in the world. This doesn't feel like threats in the world when Goku and them supposed to be in god levels and they still getting beat up by normal monsters and creatures and humans. Like, be so for real. Dragon Ball Daima sucks. It is what it is. And the editors is right. And anybody who criticizing it, they're allowed to criticize it. Stop trying to sit up here and act like Dragon Ball is so sacred that we're not allowed to criticize it. Kind of funny how y'all can criticize everything Bleach do wrong. Ooh, tell somebody. Tell somebody. But anytime somebody say something wrong with Dragon Ball, you don't know what you're talking about. Really? 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 Oh, okay. But those are my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.